Michael Brown filling in for Sid Roth. Welcome to my world where it is naturally supernatural.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to
Hit the Bar.
I'm Steve Kozar.
Paulette Kozar and
David Kozar.
He has done nothing wrong. He just prefers to sit in the lower, more comfortable chair.
He is more comfortable.
Because Jesus says, choose the least chair, and then you'll be like raised up to a better chair.
Wow. So next time you come here, you can be in my chair and I'll be in your chair.
Notice he doesn't tell us that until the camera's running.
That's the reason.
Don't know how to react to that one. Okay, let's move on.
Hang on.
The least honorable chair.
Isn't that only at a wedding?
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, this is not a wedding.
This is not a wedding. We've been married for a while.
So what are we going to talk about today?
If you want to renew your vows, I'm a pastor.
Hey, we never talked about that.
Let's go in the backyard. You guys can do it right now. I'll officiate.
That's the next Hit the Bar.
I got the Bible.
You remember we're doing a video now?
All right.
All right, here we go. Hello.
So we're going to talk about Dr. Michael Brown. But before I do, I think it wouldn't be wrong to say, shout out to all of our campuses all over the world. Hey, we're so excited to have you, even with our special guest, David Lovi, who came here from Lake Zurich, Illinois.
Hello.
There you go. There you go.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. We actually grew up in Lake Zurich, Illinois.
Yep, and he lives right down the street from the church we used to go to where we got married. But
Blocks away.
yeah, blocks away.
Blocks.
Craziness.
But you know what? That has
It's
no
a
bearing
small
on the
world
topic.
after all. It's never. Here we go off on Bunny Trail. Sorry.
So we're going to talk about some of the tactics that Dr. Michael Brown has kind of made a pattern of deflection over a number of years now. And so we're kind of thinking, we don't want to do a regular Hit the Bar where you just kind of go through an entire sermon, but we're going to try to talk about these patterns so that when people see the patterns in the future, they won't hopefully be as effective. In fact, what I want to do is...
And why are we doing this right now? What's actually kind of surfaced that has kind of like, okay, we're just going to attack this? Isn't there been like a mounting bunch of videos where he's saying things that are questionable at times?
We're not against the idea of showing the video where he stacks all of his books on the desk.
Are we going to do that?
Well,
I hope so.
That's an option.
I think we should. Don't you think so, David?
I mean, yeah, we could do that. I think we want to cover him casting this person and deflecting from what the actual criticism is, instead of actually addressing the doctrinal points that are being brought up from the Bible about the false teachers, which Michael Brown defends. Instead of actually addressing those things and trying to answer them from the Bible, what happens then, and has happened over the years, which I'm actually, because of the efforts of people like you guys, now it's more exposed that Michael Brown is doing this, is that he'll just attack the person who's making the criticism by calling them a hypercritic or saying that we're damning people to hell. And I think we're going to be talking about that a little bit today.
That's good. Thank you for that summing up. I think that's good.
And showing really how Michael Brown doing that is a tactic order to divert one's attention away from the subject matter at hand.
Yeah.
And there's an actual name for it. There's a whole number of logical fallacies, and then within the logical fallacy categories, there are subcategories. So the subcategory, well, he's going to say it. It's a cool
Who is this
Latin
guy?
word. It's just somebody I found on YouTube.
Are not always, but are very frequently.
Plainly against.
Ad hominem criticisms are not always, but are very frequently fallacious. Unless the character or actions of the person making an argument are directly related to the matter at hand, criticizing them and not their ideas is a fallacy. A related fallacy is tu quo qui, where it is argued that a person making an argument has behaved in a way inconsistent with that argument. Their behavior might be inconsistent, but it doesn't necessarily make their argument wrong.
So this is just a couple of simple explanations I found for graphics. The tu quo qui, which is just a Latin term that means you also. It's a fallacy, involves the accusation of hypocrisy against someone instead of engaging with their argument. It's a fallacy because being hypocritical does not change the truth value of whatever someone is saying. Example, Alice advised us to exercise regularly. Alice does not exercise regularly. Therefore, her recommendation must be rejected.
Good. That's a good example.
Yeah, there's another one, another graphic I found here. Hang on a second.
That should be David says exercise regularly, but David doesn't exercise regularly.
We'll leave David out of
Yeah.
an exercise quote.
To avoid having to engage with criticism by turning it back on the accuser, you answered criticism with criticism. Pronounce tu quo que, literally translated as you two. This fallacy is also known as the appeal to hypocrisy. It is commonly employed as an effective red herring because it takes the heat off someone having to defend their argument and instead shifts the focus back onto the person making the criticism. So a red herring is in argumentative logical fallacy terms, is something that you basically throw out there to kind of stop the serious discussion of the actual topic and to create a distraction that seems like it's adding to the discussion, but it's actually taking away from this discussion. And so I watched the roundtable, and I made more than one video on the roundtable with Dr. Michael Brown, Dr. Sam Storms, Jim Osmond, and of course Justin Peters. And when I got to the part where he uses this attack, I couldn't quite exactly put my finger on it, but I knew he was doing some sort of a deflection. Mm-hmm. So I looked this up because I knew it was a type of logical fallacy, but I didn't have the language for it. And I thought it would be helpful because a lot of times the arguments that you hear from somebody like a Dr. Michael Brown will be used by your local pastor or by your friend even. If he thinks that's a good form of argumentation and you're not sure how to deal with it, you know something's not quite right, but you're still going, I don't know what to do with that because I feel like everything just shifted, and I thought I brought up a valid point, but it kind of went somewhere else, and now I'm
confused.
I'm over here confused with this other issue.
Are we going to see the example of him doing that with Luther?
Let's go there right here.
Yeah.
That we had was, it seems from our vantage point that this becomes a very easy out for you to simply say, I haven't seen it, I haven't known him, I haven't spent hours with him.
A preface to this, they were talking about various false teachers, most importantly Sid Roth, who Michael Brown has defended because he knows him personally. So I think that's just what happened.
I know that for sure. Whereas for us, we look at the outward fruit and we say, here's a man who lives this lifestyle, he's doing these lies, there seems to be no active conviction of the Holy Spirit. The things that would grieve your heart doesn't grieve his at all. And yet you're willing to affirm that he's a believer, and these are not things that are going on behind the scenes. These are stuff that happens on his television program every week.
All right, so here's the thing. There's, to say it once more, I'm not here to defend Benny Hinn, right? Right. Okay, that's number one.
So it's about Benny Hinn, not about Sid Roth.
Well, they were actually doing both.
Okay.
So they're kind of going back and forth using those two examples.
All right,
And I put here comes the gigantic deflection.
This is for everyone that's watching, right? Number two, to say it for maybe the fourth time, if everything in your description is true, because I've not watched the show or been to meetings, etc., maybe one service many years ago at his church. But if that description is true, yeah, we agree, false teacher, right? So let me just turn it around. Would you agree that Martin Luther was a false teacher?
No.
There it is.
So in the beginning of this, Jim starts by saying this is not a debate. Okay, I went back to the original roundtable video, and actually it was Dr. Michael Brown who said, we're not here to have a debate, and then Jim Osmond agreed with him. Here's the original clip, followed by what they said right after that, which I tried to summarize, but I don't think I did it quite as accurately as I should have.
I know from my heart, but make sure we're all on the same page, we're not here to have a debate.
No, correct. I prefer a discussion, and I'm not here to try and convince either one of you that the cessationist position is biblical. I think that's been done. That's not our objective in having a conversation here. And I know that you're not going to convince me that prophecy is for today, or that I should be hearing from God, or that that Justin can be healed here by either one of you. You're not going to convince me of that. So it's more having a conversation, discussion about our differences.
And can we just up front, since we have the little communication we've had, and first time meeting each other last night was our first time, and then first time face to face now, otherwise it's just been by Zoom or email, that we know there's nothing personal here.
Yes.
So we can be completely blunt with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm 100% convinced you're wrong on what you just said about prophecy.
Okay.
you're 100% convinced by the word, you won't be changed.
Yes.
But that's fine. We're not insulting each other
That's right.
in saying that. If I think you're way off there, if you think I'm totally lacking in discernment, we can be totally candid.
Sure.
So there's no personal offense here.
Nope.
Because we want to help flesh this out. For our conversation is for the body, right? For the glory of God. I mean, that's been what we're praying, that Jesus will be glorified and the body will be helped.
Yep.
That's the goal.
That's why we're here. We're not going to have a debate. What did he just do? He started a debate.
Yeah.
And it was a really tricky tactic to throw these guys off and to, instead of answering the question, why are you defending Sid Roth?
Or
Benny Hinn.
right.
But Sid Roth is more of the focus here because he claims that, he's friends with them. He knows for a fact that this is a genuine Christian.
For many, many, many
and
years.
he means no harm.
Right.
He might have some flaky people here and there, but so you want me to play some more?
Well,
Or do you
so
wanna talk?
this is the tu quo quae. If I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Sounds good.
Tu quo quae.
In other words, he's saying, you guys are being hypocrites because you're unwilling to condemn Martin Luther and you're instead condemning Sid Roth and Benny Hinn. And because you're unwilling to condemn the teaching of Martin Luther, therefore, the implication is your criticism of Benny Hinn and Sid Roth must be invalid.
Exactly.
This is the logical fallacy.
Which is so weird because what just happened? There's we just had this thing in our hands and now it's gone. We were talking about bona fide false teaching happening, fraudulent people pretending to be doctors, telling stories that aren't verifiable. They're the opposite of verifiable. I mean, some of the people on Sid Roth's show they're like carnival people.
Some you can't find anymore.
Yes, and I've shown that in videos.
Yeah.
I've done a great deal of research into the backgrounds of these people. I don't think I've ever found anyone who's an actual doctor who claims to be a doctor. They all have fake degrees from diploma mills. And I made a video about this, and Dr. Brown actually didn't watch the entire video, which he says later in this one. So he appreciates that I made the video, but he didn't watch the whole thing. He watched part of it.
Or saying, hey, Sid's a friend for decades, but I would definitely not have some of these guests on and really, really differ. And I sent Stephen Kozar's video to Sid's people and said, really, you got to do a better job on vetting, right? But I view him as a brother that loves the Lord and passionate for souls, etc. When Stephen Kozar put out, respectfully, Dr. Brown, maybe you're not aware of guests, etc. I sent that, I watched part of it. I watched part of it. I sent it over to Sid's key man that runs the organization. We talked about it. I said, you guys have to do a better job of vetting guests. He said, what's interesting is we don't have a fundraising department, but we have a 6-person team who just vets guests.
And then he didn't send it to Sid Roth. He sent it to Sid Roth's people.
Who vet the people that come on the show.
Okay, so this is your best friend, and you've got this really important video that brings up some really good points, but you won't give it to Sid Roth. You give it to somebody who works for Sid Roth. What does that say? I don't want to give it to Sid Roth because now I'm going to be held responsible. Okay, so you gave it to Sid Roth. What happened next? He doesn't want to answer that question. He wants to say, well, I gave it to his people. It's up
Not
to
my
them.
fault.
It's not my fault. I did everything I could.
Just like Adam saying, hey, Lord, sorry, the woman you gave me, the woman you gave me, she ate the apple. And then she's like, wait a minute, the serpent.
Why are you pointing to me? I'm not the serpent.
No, I'm not. The serpent, he told me to eat it.
Now, let's get back to this point right here.
Right.
This is 3 minutes in, and what I wanted to show here is this is another really common tactic.
All I've called for is equal weights and equal measure. And an unequal weight measure, and God hates unequal weights and measures. And there are discernment ministries that do a good job, but I've run into a bunch that do a very bad job. They're unethical in the way they confront themselves. They use unequal weights and measures to condone what they believe and condemn others. And those I would call to account and say, step higher, my brother, my sister. I absolutely do have issues with some of the critics. And I would say their methodology is often dishonest, often uses unequal weights and measures.
I'm sorry, I had to press the button. Hit the button.
That's it. Hit the bar.
Hit the bar.
Hit the bar.
Yeah, that's what the name of the show is. Not press the button. Press the button. All right.
That's so anticlimactical.
Yeah. All right.
Deflection on aisle 5.
All right. Here's the thing. All right. As on the day that John MacArthur issues a false prophecy, the three of us will come and do a hit the bar on that episode. That's what using equal weights and measures would look like. Okay? The reason that we're not making videos like the kind that we have been making or that they have been making about, I don't know, Sinclair Ferguson or John MacArthur or Steve Lawson. Like, the reason why is because they're not doing the same things that the false teachers and false prophets that Michael Brown defends are doing. If they were doing those things, of course we would be the first ones to call them out. That's what equal weights and measures looks like. So if what is he actually asking for? He's saying, you need to critique your own camp. All right, but if my own camp is not doing the thing which we are critiquing, how can I critique my own camp for that then?
Well,
now,
And Scripture calls us to call that out.
yes.
So it's like, it doesn't matter if it's in your camp or not. We're to call it out
Absolutely.
when we see it.
Now, I want to say, because he brings up Luther. I'm a Jewish man. I'm a Jewish Christian man. And I don't know, we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about Luther. But I'll say this, yes, absolutely. Luther said some bad things toward the end of his life, in the last 2 years of his life. Really, really bad things that I think it would have been better, much better, historically, had he not said them. And there was really bad stuff that even came from his teaching on that particular topic. I'm willing to say that's bad. That's wrong. You can spit out those bones from Luther, and they are that, and still appreciate the tremendous gifts that he had and brought to the church in the Protestant Reformation and restoring sola fide really to the church that had gone off the rails for hundreds of years. So, I mean, I think it's possible, and the Christian church should critique anyone who goes off the rails in whatever way that manifests itself. But like we were just talking earlier, Steve, what Luther said was 500 years ago, okay? What these guys are saying is right now. And there are people who are alive right now who are following Sid Roth, who are following Benny Hinn, who are following Kenneth Copeland, who are following all of this guy's best friends, Daniel Kalenda, and all of those guys.
Yes.
And like, these are the lives that I care about because they're alive right now.
Yeah, we've had people tell us stories about a family member dying because they didn't take medicine because they were convinced they were going to be healed, and they died.
Yes.
So this is not
We're not talking about elderly person either. This is
Yeah.
a young Christian woman who, it was her sister and her best friend, and she just was convinced she had to do what,
because they were listening to Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin, and they were in their own little home church version of a Bethel church because they watched nothing but. And I actually brought that up to Dr. Michael Brown in an email. That's when that happened. And the first thing he replied back was, do you know for sure that they were directly using Bill Johnson's material? Like, basically, instead of saying, that's horrible, this has to stop. We can't let people die for stupid things like this. I'm with you. Because that's how I started the whole thing. I was like, I'll work with you if we can get Sid Roth to stop promoting frauds, because you claim he's your really close friend.
So what he's doing is actually irony. He's committing grievous irony by saying that Luther should be condemned while he's unwilling to say that some of his best friends should be taken down from leadership in the Christian church. That Sid Roth should not have a television program promoting garbage.
What he did here was he tried to catch them off guard by saying, do you think
Hypocrisy.
Do you think that Martin Luther's a false teacher? And they answer no. Now he's like going to turn the knife, and he's going to start reading quotes that he brought with him. He was prepared for this. He was ready for the debate that wasn't supposed to happen, but he knew, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to show these guys up. I'm going to jab them with
Wouldn't that be lying then?
It's
saying, okay, I'm not going to debate. I agree, I'm not going to debate, and then you have prepared notes.
Yep.
So you knew right along.
Yep.
You were going to debate, but you told them to their face, a little white lie. No, we're not going to debate.
No, we're here to work together.
Well, okay, now it's ready to debate time.
So I want you to notice the tactic. He reads a really bad Semitic, what's the right way to say it?
Anti-Semitic
Quote, And the guys are like, yeah, that's pretty bad. And then he reads another one, yeah, that's pretty bad. And he's like, oh yeah, let me read more. I can read even more. And then he goes on about the Nazis and about people dying because of Martin Luther as a result of these quotes that were used by other people.
It's just a gotcha tactic.
It's a gotcha, but it just keeps going. And the more he does it, if you don't know what he's doing, the emotional power of these nasty things seems to be building more of a case, but he never really had a case to begin with. It's the same case with just more emphasis. But the fact is, what we're really not doing anymore is talking about Sid Roth, which is what he wants.
That's the reason why Chris Roseborough calls him the Doc Obbs, the doctor of obfuscation.
Right?
Our good pal, Doc Obbs, whose greatest hits include believing that owning and operating a private jet is more frugal than flying coach, heartily defending the fictitious sneaky squid spirit, denying the existence of the New Apostolic Reformation when people are clearly running around claiming to be active leaders of it.
He clouds things over. He changes the subject. He deflects. He makes other arguments that seem to have some kind of tertiary connection to what they're talking about, but really the effect is the purpose of him bringing up Luther, for instance. I mean, because he can't bring up people living today. I mean, he doesn't have any examples of that kind of Luther's rhetoric today from Christian leaders.
Well, he used that tactic in the book that responded to the Strange Fire book, and he probably just had his book in his computer. So he was using the same quotes that he had from the past. That was the same argument he used against the Strange Fire conference.
So, but what I'm saying is, he can't accuse Chris Roseborough of being an anti-Semite, right? Because Chris Roseborough is a Lutheran, but he's not spouting anti-Semitic stuff.
No Lutherans
right?
are, except for some fringe somewhere of a dozen people maybe. But it's not. We actually have.
Or you, right?
Yeah, we have. Do I have it right here?
I said that.
No, I don't
Brown was committing irony. What I meant to say is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy.
And being hypocritical doesn't mean that your argument is good or bad. It just means that you're being a hypocrite.
Yes.
So in the case of this situation, what I see him doing almost always is some form of deflection.
Yep.
And we could find more videos. Let me play what I've got here.
A false teacher. No. So the man who said that Jews should be forbidden to teach under penalty of death, whose words were used literally by Adolf Hitler in Kristallnacht, the opening of the Holocaust, who said, God commanded me to kill hundreds of thousands or 150,000 peasants, that God commanded me to do that. So a man whose words were used to fuel the fires of anti-Semitic...
That smile.
Yeah.
That is not a real smile.
No.
He's smiling like, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't answer me because I got you. That's what it looks like to me. I'm perhaps wrong.
Hatred that put millions and millions of Jews to death.
Why else would you be smiling? The topic that he's talking about
It's
is not funny.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
So why else would he be smiling?
Yeah. And when I watched this, I was like, man, this is so imbalanced and weird, and I know what he's doing sort of, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly how to describe it. It's something I've been mulling over ever since this came out. And the thought I had was, well, what if both Jim and Justin said, yeah, you're right, he maybe went to hell. You know what, though? Whether he did or didn't is something we have absolutely no power of because it's already a long time ago. But even if he was alive today, we still don't have power over somebody going to hell or not. That's this whole thing of you're condemning people to hell is another one of his tactics. And
Is he going to say that here in this clip?
It goes on for a while.
It was unhinged
Do we have to
in
watch it?
all kinds of rhetoric against all kinds of people. I just mentioned one of his things about getting rid of the insufferable devilish burden of the Jews, who praised the image hanging on a church building in Germany of a pig, where the rabbis are trying to suck in the excrement or nurse from the pig's breast, the pig's nipples, and talking about the Jews. He's not a false teacher. I mean, to me, that's a massive double standard. And I could go on and on. I could add to. So
now he's just pounding home the same exact idea that he started with. And again, I just want to make make a point here that he's not actually adding to his argument. He's just using the same one with more emotion so that people get mad. And as an example, Ruslan watched this and he said, oh, yeah, Dr. Michael Brown is just a better debater. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And like the only reason that works is if you already want to agree with him.
Right.
It's just a form of confirmation bias. Because these guys are not saying, yeah, we agree with those terrible things he said. Everybody agrees, yeah, those terrible things he said were really bad.
Yep.
And to bring it up and continue bringing it up and trying to kind of drive this thing into the ground, all I see is the longer he can keep people distracted onto that topic, the more he's eating up time so that we don't have to talk about Sid Roth. Because he can't say anything about Sid Roth.
So one thing I was thinking about here in this roundtable, the man sitting next to Dr. Brown is Sam Storms, who is, a published scholar with many books with Crossway. I think Crossway publishes like 20 of his books, which is kind of pretty unfortunate to me, actually. Made me lose respect for Crossway as a publisher. But one thing I wrote here, just talking with some friends, that Brown is actually the one using unequal weights and measures, conflating racism with false prophecy. Okay, so what Osman and Peters are talking about is that false prophets are coming in and Brown is defending them. And then Brown retorts and says, you're using unequal weights and measures. Look at this racist Martin Luther. And if you support a racist, someone who's committing the sin of racism, who doesn't like the Jews,
But he's calling it false teaching. He's not calling it racism.
Right.
Which is another tactic.
So he's saying here that that if you support Luther, then you're being, basically he's calling them a hypocrite, even though he's the one who's being a hypocrite. So what I said was this: Jonathan Edwards had slaves, for instance, but he was not a false teacher. I wonder if Michael Brown would say that Jonathan Edwards having slaves would make him a false teacher then. The same kind of thing, the same way that he's talking about Luther, and Edwards was not against slavery. Of course, I'll take an Edwards and a Luther every day over Kenneth Copeland and Benny Hinn. No doubt about that.
Or Kevin Zadai.
Absolutely right. At least Jonathan Edwards didn't say a saxophone playing Jesus showed up at the edge of his bed at night. So anyway, my
that
point,
was his unpublished work. That was
right. I mean, so maybe like Yale University has Edwards saying that, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point was simply this: just that Brown is purposely doing this. When Ruslan says that he's a better debater, well, it's because, like, that's what this guy does, is debate. He's been in many public debates over many different topics. And we were just talking earlier upstairs about how Michael Brown can be so deceptive. It's so sneaky. Because on certain things, you could listen to him, a Bible-believing Christian could listen to Michael Brown and say, I agree with everything he just said. He debated Brendan Robertson, this guy who's promoting liberal gay theology, and I watched the whole debate. I think it was maybe I don't know when the debate was posted, but I just watched it last week. I just wanted to watch it. And I can honestly say that I agreed with every single word of Michael Brown in that debate.
You want to know something that's interesting about this? When we did that Zoom roundtable call with Brandon before the roundtable came out, remember I was Chris, Justin, Richard Moore. We all had a chance to talk about our involvement in the project, and we all, more than one of us, said how Dr. Michael Brown has some really good points on various topics. He's not like these other guys. He says some really good things, and in fact, Chris Roseborough specifically, more than anybody, said I used his Hebrew scholarship when I was in school, and it was excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Michael Brown never watched that video and never heard anyone say those things because he said that he turned it off as soon as he saw what was happening on this panel. Basically, when he saw that Chris Roseborough was on that panel, he turned it off.
Yeah.
So he knows that Chris Roseborough is really, 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 really bad. That's why he never listens to him. So he knows how bad he is by never actually listening to him. How does that work?
Right.
That was that's another. You can't know something and at the same time claim you don't do any research on a certain thing.
And as you'll see, I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing, but even later in later videos when Chris calls into his show
Yeah.
And talks with him about Luther, and Brown perfectly plays the victim. I just see it. I mean, look, I'm a Jewish Christian myself.
You should be
Okay.
offended and I'm angry and worked up and on his side.
Yeah, I'm not, though. I'm not. And the reason why I'm not is because I'm able to chew the meat and spit out the bones of Luther and of everyone else in church history whose name is not Jesus Christ.
That's
because everyone is a sinner.
Right.
Everyone has... it does not have perfect doctrine, okay? Not everyone is a Reformed Baptist like me, right? So,
You know, and even Lutherans don't hold to everything that Luther said.
That's right.
Even the name Lutheran was a derogatory term.
That's right.
Luther, before he died, said, whatever you do, don't call this thing the Lutheran Church. Don't name it after me.
Right.
And so there's a lot of misconceptions based on these kind of... It's easy to just think in really broad, simple categories about certain things when in fact there is some nuance to it. There is sometimes a case to be made that I need to know a little bit more about a person or a movement or a theological framework before I make declarations about it.
But
So-
Brown plays into this stereotype of the Jewish people as perpetual victims, all right? And
Sometimes they're forced
yeah.
to sit in lower chairs than the other people around them. Can you believe that?
I chose it.
Okay, I got an idea.
Anyway, I was just saying.
Keep going.
Keep going in your idea. All I was just saying was that he plays into this notion of, I mean, it's a stereotype of the Jews being perpetual victims. And when you watch him in the program when Chris called, this is
Thanks so much.
Sorry.
He's saying this is so grievous. It's like you can almost see the tear is about to come out. And it's like, dude, you're not a victim. Like, what are you talking about? And him like blaming Nazism on Martin Luther. It's like Luther was not the cause of Nazism. Nazism was not a Christian phenomenon.
Right.
Adolf Hitler was a pagan. He believed in like some nebulous providence, but he was not a Christian. Of course, the Nazis used propaganda, and they wanted to take whatever they could. They would make every hero in history into a Nazi. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that Martin Luther would have condoned Nazism.
Oh, no.
I don't believe that if Luther was alive in the 20th century, that he would have said Nazism is good. Let's kill them.
Right.
Let's burn all the Jews. I don't believe he would do that. But anyway, he's purposely playing into this stereotype in order to divert the attention away from the actual arguments that are being given about false teachers, which is what actually started this. And instead,
Last week,
Here we go.
instead the roundtable turned into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
My hope, I don't know if I've told this story before, but I was the guy who actually told both Jim and Justin, let's try to work with Dr. Michael Brown. If he's sincere about wanting to meet with them, and if we can get him to realize how bad things are on the Sid Roth show, maybe he can do something. I actually thought there was a chance that would take place. So I made my video, and that got a lot of kind of stuff stirred up, and then Jim called in, and that got stuff stirred up. And I was on the phone with both those guys, and I said, let's just try to work with them. And then nothing happened. Nothing happened. He didn't do anything to curb what's happening on the Sid Roth show. And you see him in that roundtable actually defending Sid Roth as if whatever he does, it might be flaky, but it's not as bad as what Martin Luther did, which is not a good argument. But it's an emotional argument, and it's hard to sound like, he wants to get people caught off guard, which is exactly what he did. This is the show he did that I find...
when did he do it?
He did this not too long ago, 2 months ago, April 8th.
Yeah, this one...
This is something.
Just hold on to your
I did a
hands.
video
Just do
explaining
this.
why I don't cater to critics, and basically said, listen, we all have to give account to God. We all
He ends up catering to critics right after he does this, by the way.
to run the race God's called us to run. I can't tell you what race you're to run. You can't tell me what race I'm to run. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 9, 24 to 27, that like athletes competing in the games, we should be disciplined in all things, and we should run our race so as to win. So at the end of our lives, we're going to give account for our lives, not for someone else's lives, right? We're going to give account for what we did with our life and how we responded to the calling of God. So I'm often challenged, well, why don't you do more of this? And why don't you focus more on this? And in particular by very strong anti-charismatic critics, why don't you spend more time calling people out? So I've addressed that. But I want to illustrate a point, and I want to give a friendly challenge to my critics. All right, so let's start with our first stack of books here. God's called me to do a lot of writing over the years. So let's grab our first stack here. All right, thank you, Kai. And commentaries. It takes a lot of years to write a commentary. So I've got here my commentary on Jeremiah, which takes up the bulk of the volume that's sitting here on my desk. A commentary on Jeremiah in the revised edition of the Expositor's Bible Commentary.
Okay.
And then my commentary on the book of Job, The Faith to Challenge God. Doing a new translation of Job was probably the hardest thing academically I've ever done. And then my book, Israel's Divine Healer, 450 pages, 165,000 words to this
He's
day.
got that memorized.
The most comprehensive study of divine healing in the Old Testament. So I'm just wondering, for those that...
I'm wondering
if
about you critics, because I'm not going to address you.
I'm wondering if he has any more books. That's what I'm wondering.
I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books.
Challenge me and say I don't spend enough time calling out charismatic error. Which commentaries have you written or major academic studies? Oh, you don't have time because you've got to concentrate on your calling to expose charismatic nonsense. And this is not your call.
Have you seen this?
I have seen it.
Okay.
But let me just say, though, did he just say it's a calling to expose charismatic nonsense?
He did, yep.
Wow. So he's actually defending what you're doing then.
That's something. He calls it a calling.
That's amazing. You have to do your calling to do this. Let me just say, the Apostle Paul says something. I have a book club, by the way. I have a book club every Monday. I've been doing it for the last 10 years at my church. And it's called the Brown Bag Book Club. We wanted to change the name to Dead Theologian Society. We're studying The Cross by Martin Lloyd-Jones right now. Fantastic book. Very simple, but just gospel book. And Lloyd-Jones' book is like 12 sermons, I think, on Galatians 6:14. God forbid I should...
What book of the Bible is it?
Galatians.
Galatians?
What?
Galatians Girl.
It's my favorite book.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I'm the Galatians Girl.
You haven't,
awesome.
You
I
haven't
knew
watched
that.
enough of these.
I knew that.
Hit the button.
I've
shows.
seen
Hit the button shows.
I've seen Press the Button or whatever.
Press the button. That's it.
All right. Listen, Galatians 6:14. But far be it from me to boast,
Yes.
except in
There
the
it
cross
is.
of our Lord Jesus Christ, by which the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world. This is what Lloyd-Jones was preaching in 1963, right at the time when JFK got murdered, shot. And he was in this series preaching all these sermons on that one verse, Galatians 6:14. And what does he say there? Paul says, that I should not boast, I should not glory. God forbid that I would ever boast in anything I've ever done in my life, in any accomplishment, any degrees, in my flesh, in my heritage. I don't boast in any of that. There's only one thing that I boast in, and that's the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world is crucified to me. That means the world holds nothing for me that I desire. This is what Paul's doing there, is he's referencing Asaph. Whom have I in heaven but you? And the earth has nothing that I desire except for you, Lord. So Paul says, I don't boast in anything except for Jesus. What's this guy doing right now?
Yeah,
in
that's
this video?
That's an
He ain't
excellent.
boasting Jesus.
No, he's boasting in how much
got
he's
it.
done.
Yep.
No problem. We'll just
He keeps
put
going.
this stack.
Let's turn him around.
Let's get stack number 2.
Stack
out
number
here
2.
on my desk.
So gross,
Jewish
man.
ministry. That's very important in Scripture. And Paul said the Gospels to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile, also to the Greek in Romans 1:16. And we know that Paul writes in Romans 11, verses 11 to 15, that the salvation of Israel will mean life from the dead. So surely that's something that you want to be engaging in. So we've got this study guide with a 22-hour video class on countering the counter missionaries. A lot of work went into that. And then 5-volume series.
I'm for real.
Over 1,500 pages on answering Jewish objections to Jesus. That's the fruit, really, of 20 years of interaction with the Jewish community and study and prayer and research and writing.
I'm for real.
Maybe even more combined. So we got those 5 volumes. And then The Real Kosher Jesus, which I wrote in response to Rabbi Shmuley Boteach's book, Kosher Jesus, The Real Kosher Jesus. And then Resurrection, which is another Jewish outreach book, a real eye-opener. And then to help Christians understand Jewish beliefs and practices, I've got a whole book on that, 60 questions Christians ask about Jewish beliefs and practices. And then my most translated book, Our Hands Are Stained with Blood, which deals with the history of anti-Semitism in the church, and then Christian anti-Semitism, which updates that, and these critically important areas to call this out. So I'm just curious to know what you're doing.
So you better check yourself.
And this is aside from all the debates I've had with rabbis and thousands of pages.
All right. I mean, this is the challenge that he's issuing, right? What commentaries have you written, and what are you doing to reach the Jewish people? Now, I believe in Galatians 6:14. God forbid that I should boast. And so what I'm about to say is no boasting whatsoever. But because he's asking the question, what are you doing? He's obviously asking it rhetorically because he believes
no one's doing anything.
No one's doing anything but him.
Right.
Right?
Because of all these books.
I mean, I served for 15 years as a missionary with the Christian Jew Foundation and Jews for Jesus on the street. I am a Jewish man, and I've done Jewish evangelism to the ultra-Orthodox community on the north side of Chicago for many years on Thursday nights on the street talking with them. So, like, what does that mean now? Does that mean that my arguments are valid because I was able to answer his challenge?
Well, you did those things, but you didn't write as many books as him, so it's still not valid.
I didn't.
You have to have a stack of books the same size.
It's not
as
even
his.
done yet.
No, he's not even close to being done.
So I actually also worked on a commentary on Jonathan Edwards. I took everything Jonathan Edwards ever wrote on the book of Romans and collated it into a verse-by-verse Romans Bible commentary.
I have that book.
Yeah, it's called The Power of God, Jonathan Edwards commentary, book of Romans. Don't buy it. It's too expensive. All right? But, like, even there, what he's doing here is he's saying, I've done this. You haven't, have you? And if you haven't, then you have no room to criticize at all.
Well, this is what's
so gross.
What
man.
I think is really interesting about this is that on one hand, he says, I'm doing all these things that are different than confronting charismatic abuses, which would be, I think, a valid argument if he stayed there. But he doesn't stay there. What he then says is, I've written books, I've spoken out against charismatic abuses. I've been right there in the thick of it. But I don't do that much. I just do some. So it kind of goes, whatever he has done is the correct amount. Whatever charismatic abuses he has confronted and whatever books he's written is the exact correct amount. And anything beyond that people might want him to do is the wrong amount because it's based on what his calling is. The problem with that, in my mind, is you can't say that I'm the good guy in the charismatic world who wants to clean it up and make sure that it's pure and make sure that it's got good sound doctrine and to get rid of frauds when you don't actually do those things. When you perpetuate those things to an extent by at least propping up your friend Sid Roth. If you're not calling out Sid Roth and all the false teachers on his show, you really, whatever books you may have written or whatever things you may have said in the past are really irrelevant. Because Sid Roth, I mean, honestly, Kevin Zadai has like 10 times as many views as he does.
So what does Jesus say in Matthew 6, verse 1? Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Now, I don't know what the eternal judgment of this guy is going to be. I have no idea. God alone is the judge, not me. But it seems to me that by listing his accomplishments and then challenging others, you don't do as much as I do, he's saying this in order to be recognized as an expert who should be listened to, an expert that his critics are not even anywhere close to as smart as he is, as hardworking as he is.
Again, if his argument worked in its entirety, he would say, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with charismatic abuses. I'm so busy writing these commentaries, and that's where my focus is.
That would have been a much more humble and a much more real way to put why you're not doing it.
Right, but he's saying, I'm the answer man.
Right.
I'm one of the leaders of the charismatic movement, but I don't want to police my own movement very much.
How dare you
think I have time to do that?
Well, we even talked about that when people call in and they have these questions or something, he does step into those rounds and he does get things wrong, or he doesn't.
When he's not playing a commercial, he does answer questions occasionally. Yeah.
But the point that I'm making is when we were discussing about how he's complaining that people are saying you should do more of it and he's not, it's like, well, then why are you even putting your toe in the pool?
Right.
You know, you shouldn't even be doing that.
That's another way of saying what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Let's let him go. I sped it up.
Just of interaction and emails back and forth with the rabbinic community and training and teaching others at seminary level to respond to Jewish objections to Jesus. I'm just curious to know what you've done, because you're always challenging me about what I need to be doing. So please tell me what you've been doing in Jewish evangelism and apologetics and combating anti-Semitism in the church and all.
So he's saying that his critics are challenging him by saying what they think he should be doing, which is, I would say, a half-truth, because what we're really saying is you're a leader in the charismatic world and you claim to know these people and you claim to have influence with these people.
And you claim to be passionate about the Bible.
Right. You claim that you want a clean house just as much as anybody does. Well, then you shouldn't be afraid of confronting more issues even with your close friends. You shouldn't shrug that off and say, I'm so busy doing these other things, I can't do that. Well, then just be one or the other, but you can't be both.
Right.
I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, I do want to bring up the issue of Mike Winger. And I think there's a really interesting contrast here, because Mike Winger never described himself as a discernment minister.
Right.
He was a Bible teacher. And honestly, I don't watch his videos because I'm too busy doing my own thing, but what I've seen is it's good stuff. I would disagree on a few things here and there, just like anybody with different theological backgrounds, but overall, it's a good guy, good Bible teacher. He takes his work really seriously. And when he came across the Benny Hinn stuff, he didn't just say, wow, that's terrible, people are being hurt. I'm so busy teaching the Bible that I won't bother myself with this. He said, I've got a platform. And now that I've seen this horrible, terrible thing, people dying, people not taking their medicine.
It's abuse.
Incredible abuse. He said, I'm going to do something about it. And then after it was all done, he said, I know people think that I'm going to just keep doing this forever, but it was just something that kind of happened because I found it. And I don't claim that I'm going to go after every teacher right now because I really want to go back to being a Bible teacher. That to me was a more honest approach to the whole thing. And I have a feeling, I just texted him about a week ago, I said, so you're not a discernment minister, huh? How's that working for you, or something like that? Because he, once you step into it, with a platform as big as he has, it's kind of hard to step out of it.
Well, and plus somebody who is a Bible teacher or a minister, a true shepherd of the Lord's sheep, when you see that type of abuse, you're going to be burdened. God is going to use your heart, and because that's what he's called you to do, is to help defend the sheep. So of course he thought his platform, and he saw what was going on with Benny Hinn. Of course he could stand up and say, this is awful. Look what's happening here. Can more of you see this? Those of you who think it's okay to be over here, and it may not be exactly what I really believe, but kind of nebulous. I believe in this mystical thing over here because God can do anything. I mean, when we start getting into our own heads, we can pretty much compromise or I should say rationalize anything.
Yeah.
you really can, because God's a God of mystery. We don't know everything. I mean, we could just go on and on. I know a little bit about that. I was kind of raised in that.
Yes.
So anyway, I think it's wonderful when I see a true shepherd actually step up, and when they see abuse, they call it and name it. And that's what I appreciate with Pastor Roseborough as well. And Justin Peters. They have a burden for the Lord's sheep. So
I mean, that's really what this all comes down to.
Yeah.
It's sad to me that this guy is attacking those who are shining the light into the darkness, because the same thing that he's accusing so-called discernment ministry people of doing, that we just want to attack people or whatever.
Right. Damn them to hell.
It's exactly. He's attacking those whose. I mean, look, I don't know anybody's heart. All right, honestly, I can't even tell you what's inside of my own heart. My own heart is deceitful.
Desperately wicked. Who can know it?
That's exactly right.
We're all there.
That's exactly right. But I will say this, that my desire in exposing false teaching is the desire for the proclamation of the gospel to go forth, for light to shine into the darkness, for people to be rescued out of deception and brought into the truth of the knowledge of Christ, the truth of who the Holy Spirit is, who God the Father is, what Christ has actually done for us. I mean, this is like the reason why I'm making this movie about the demon slayers now, is because what those people are doing is detracting from the finished work of Christ and saying that the finished work of Christ is not enough.
Well, then it's another gospel.
Right. It's another gospel so that these are not actually secondary matters.
Right.
It's saying that there's a deficient gospel where Christ is unable to rescue a person from the dominion of darkness, and you need Alexander Pagani and whoever, these other Catherine Crick to get the rest of your demons out, because trusting in Christ is not enough.
Right.
Right? So, because there are many people who follow that.
A lot of people.
And who thus believe in a gospel which is not the actual gospel. It's not the true gospel that those people are preaching. If I love them, if I care about their souls, what is a person to do?
Right.
To expose it, to say, look, this is why it's wrong.
Yeah.
You need to, open your eyes. You need to call it out when you see such a thing. I believe that's what the vast majority of those who are engaged in the kind of ministry that you guys do, all right, making videos like the ones that you do, is about that. It is about evangelism. That this is the work of an evangelist to equip the church to discern truth from error, to see the difference between light and darkness. And it's tragic to me that a person as brilliant as this guy is, with a PhD from New York University, he is a very smart person, but in this area, I was just telling Steve upstairs, he is either the biggest con man I've maybe ever seen, or he has the biggest blind spot of anyone I've ever seen. And I don't know which one it is. I don't know if Michael Brown just has this blindness to these people whom he is defending. I would tend to say, based on how he treats those who have told him the truth, that it's the former and not the latter, that he's actually conning people. I don't know that for certain because I don't know his heart, but I'll say I think he's smart enough to see, and he's seen enough now. I mean, he plays ignorant about everything.
What's interesting is that after this really bad video came out, my first was Mike Winger's big video, and then I made a video specifically calling Dr. Michael Brown out for making a pro Benny Hinn video. And then he made a video saying, okay, I finally watched some Benny Hinn stuff, and now I realize he's bad. I admit it. You got me.
And that's what this is not about.
Yeah, it was kind of like
we were playing a game and you're in a chess, so now you have checkmate.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, another game.
The other thing was
no,
really,
it's not a game.
The thing that was really weird about that was he said he watched my video and I made a really good point, and he admitted that, you're right, I made a video that kind of propped up Benny Hinn based on the one thing I watched, but I didn't watch anything else. So you're right, you got me. I'm like, Okay, so that wasn't very hard. That didn't take a long time. But it took me making a video that made you look really bad, and Mike Winger making a really important video that showed how truly evil Benny Hinn was, for him to finally take a really small amount of time and to say, yeah, I guess Benny Hinn is this terrible person that they've been telling me he is for all these years. Why was he ignoring it all that time? He only admitted that he was a bad guy when he had to, because he looked bad otherwise.
That's because he doesn't want to condemn him to hell, as if we had the ability to condemn people to hell.
Let's go.
Or I could turn around and say, how come you're not doing this and this and this and this and this, and you're spending all this time just bashing us? How's that work?
See, that's what, right there is the example we showed in a video we made earlier. Why are you making all these videos bashing us?
Right.
That's not being fair. That's not equal weights and measures. Now, are there some discernment ministers who aren't very good? Absolutely. Are there some things that have been said that are probably wrong? Absolutely. I'm sure there are. And my first interaction with him was me taking down an article that I had written because he said there was things in that article that were wrong. And I wanted to show him that I really was sincere about wanting to get my facts correct. And he said some of the things in that article weren't true. I was there. I said, that's fine. I'll take it down. And I did. We should all be willing to do that.
Right.
But when he says people like me, people like you, people like Justin Peters, people like Chris Roseborough are simply interested in bashing charismatics, he's doing the very thing he claims that we're guilty of.
Yeah.
He's painting with a broad brush.
It's a straw man.
It's a big straw man.
Work out. How's that work out? Now, there's another thing that takes a little bit of my time.
There's that smile.
It's called this. It's called The Line of Fire. It's called 5 days a week of live talk radio. And in some cases, there's a lot of preparation before a show, and then the time of the show itself. And for years, we did 2 hours of live talk radio every single day.
Well, honey, I always say, if you're good and you know it, why waste time beating around a bush, true?
Oh, and in January, we launched a new broadcast. It is a 30-minute equipping version of The Line of Fire that launched on a couple hundred plus stations in January. As we have funds, we'll put it on more and more stations across America. So I record an additional 5 30-minute shows every single week as well. But hang on. I wonder why you're not doing that. I wonder why you're not.
No. Okay, this is an important point that is being brought up here. And he's saying he's doing all of these things, and yet he's being attacked for not addressing the
Sid Roth
excesses, if you want to put it in that way, the excesses of the charismatic movement. And look how busy I am. I'm writing books. I have a show. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. What's really interesting is you never find anyone critiquing, let's say, I don't know, Stephen Nichols. You know who that is? A guy in Florida, a scholar, right? He has a podcast sometimes that he goes on. You never find anyone saying, hey, Stephen Nichols, why don't you spend more time critiquing the charismatic movement, right? Never. You never find someone saying to, what's his name? Sinclair Ferguson, hey, Sinclair, you need to spend more time critiquing the charismatic movement. Okay, why not? You never hear someone say to Steve Lawson, you need to spend more time critiquing the charismatic movement.
Because those guys are not known to be leaders within the charismatic movement.
That's it.
Who claim to be interested in curbing charismatic abuses.
That's exactly why. Because this guy, the difference between him and them, there are many differences, but the main difference here between him and them, why they're not being criticized and he is because those guys aren't platforming the worst kind of false teachers in the world today. And if they were platforming such people, you can bet they would be critiqued for doing so.
Isn't Kevin Zadai his
son-in-law?
His son-in-law is the
producer for
tour manager,
Kevin Zadai.
Some kind of a management
So
position.
he's that close to him, just as like Sid Roth. He goes back 20 plus 30 years.
Well, and that's Ryan Bruss.
Ryan Bruss shares fresh revelation of the love of Father God for his children. I have to tell you, Ryan doesn't just speak by theory. He has been to heaven. He has been to heaven. He has an impartation of the Father's heart, the Father's love, that is going to just radiate through the screen.
And Ryan also used to work on the Sid Roth show before he started working for Kevin Zadai.
Oh, that's right.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
So Billy Graham one time went to Martin Lloyd-Jones when he was going to do his crusade in London and asked Martin Lloyd-Jones, would you head up the crusade? And Lloyd-Jones invited him into Westminster Chapel, and he said they had a long meeting, and the thrust of the meeting was this. Lloyd-Jones told Billy Graham, I'll do it on 2 conditions. 1, you get rid of the Roman Catholics on the stage. And 2, you get rid of the invitation system. All right? If you get rid of the invitation system and you put Roman Catholics off of the stage when you're standing up there preaching and inviting people to go and enter into the Catholic Church, if you do those 2 things, I will head up the London thing.
How'd that go?
Yeah, no. Billy Graham said, no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
So I think, not that I'm the spokesperson for anybody but myself. I'm not. But I could bet if Michael Brown ever watches this is a challenge to you, buddy. Stop platforming the worst false teachers in the world. Stop going on their platforms.
Welcome to my world where it is naturally supernatural.
Stop defending them, and then the criticism of you will really disappear.
That's true.
I don't think that there will be people making any videos critiquing you at all, as long as you stop doing those things. Stop going and defending the worst of the worst, most egregious, terrible, false doctrine in the whole world. If you do that, it will stop. Okay? And then you can focus on all your books that you're writing and all the things that now you've, I don't know, God is the judge, but it looks to me like, man, did you spend all that time just to lose your reward by boasting in it publicly? Wow. That's really sad, man. Yeah. You spent thousands of hours, and now what is that? Will you even get an eternal reward for making those books now that you've boasted and how great you are for writing them? That's wicked stuff, man. You need to repent of that, Michael Brown. You need to repent of that, man. You need to boast in Christ alone, in what he has done alone. All of your good works are like filthy rags, and they will count for nothing in the final day.
The preacher's preaching, people.
There you go.
I'm just, man,
this is what I want
it bothers me, man.
Spiritual clarity. He claims to be the voice for moral sanity and spiritual clarity.
Yeah, it's like...
That's your tagline. That's your, whatever you call it, marketing thing.
Hashtag.
If you're claiming that you provide spiritual clarity, then you should actually be providing spiritual clarity. You shouldn't be confusing people by
helping
saying
mucky muck the waters.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't think this is inappropriate to say, well, he's not providing spiritual clarity. He is on some issues, but in the area of these false people within the charismatic world, some of whom are genuine frauds. Yeah. They're not just a little bit off. They're not just a little bit wacky. They're frauds. They're fake doctors claiming to visit heaven, claiming to talk to Jesus and get new revelations. Yeah. This is commonplace.
He has the same spiritual clarity as Stevie Wonder has clarity about the visible world outside. That's how much spiritual clarity this guy has. I hope that he does watch this video that we're talking about.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah, he
doesn't watch anything.
Right.
He doesn't have time because look at all the amazing books he's writing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wall.
Live Talk Radio tackling the issues, and I wonder why you're not doing a 30-minute equipping bro. Oh, it's not your calling. Oh, okay, I got it. It's not your calling. Plus, you don't have time to do that because you spend all your time bashing the charismatics. Got it.
He did it again. You take all your time bashing the charismatics.
Gross, man.
Why is that wrong? Explain how he phrased it was wrong.
Well, it's I'm going to use me as an example.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time making videos. It's a full-time job now. And to say all I do is bash charismatics would be the thing you could only say if you never actually watched my videos.
Right.
If you watched my videos, you'd say, well, that's a horrible broad brush statement that isn't giving any spiritual clarity to what Kozer actually does.
Right.
It's not any clarity at all. It's a swipe.
Yeah.
It's a straw man. If everybody thinks that heresy hunters are simply just bashing charismatics because we don't understand them, we've never spoken in tongues, we've never been to a charismatic church, we're just ignorant and mean and nasty, well, he's providing that narrative for them to hold on to those beliefs. He's saying to everybody who's in his camp already, I'm going to give you the protective bubble so you never have to leave this set of ideas.
Yeah, what a gross straw man. I don't need to defend myself against the accusations of Michael Brown, but I'll just say I'm a pastor of a church west of Chicago, and I teach 7th and 8th grade Bible at a Christian school.
It's not as important as what he does.
No, and I have
level. You got to put it on the right level.
3 young children to raise, and I'm a husband, and like I don't spend all my time bashing. I'm just a Christian, man. I'm just a Christian man, just like you people are both also Christians who are concerned about God's truth and concerned about the church as any true Christian should be.
Right. Yeah,
and so,
that's pretty simple.
when darkness invades into the church and calls itself the light, when darkness calls itself light, it is the absolute responsibility of those in the church to expose the darkness, to shine light into the darkness. And now he's saying, like, these people are just bashing. It's like,
what are we in middle school?
I know.
I mean, it's a middle school, like, it's just like
all clear. Well,
So I went through Michael Brown's entire 20-minute video, and I found all of the instances where he claimed that we were simply bashing charismatics. And I made this handy little recap video.
Oh, okay, I get it. It's not your calling. God, it's not, and it takes too much time to put all this material together, bashing the charismatics. Got it. Oh, that's not your calling. Got it. Okay. And of course, you don't have time to do that because you got all this other important work to do, bashing the charismatics. Listen, you're spending all this time just bashing us. Oh, it's not your calling. Okay, I got it. It's not your calling. Plus, you don't have time to do that because you spend all your time bashing the charismatics. Got it. Oh, that's not your calling. You're not burdened to do that. And plus, you don't have time because it takes a lot of time to bash the charismatics with all the weirdness and stuff in our army. Okay, got it. All clear. And plus, you don't have time. Yeah, I mean, how could you do all that and just bash charismatics all the time? I get it. Since 2010, the first time, really 2012, it started going. So since 2012, so roughly the last 11, 12 years, God's called me to write a lot of articles. And what's happening in the world today,
says him.
Yeah.
Right. How can he prove that God's called him to write all these articles?
It's a tricky point because if you take his ideas, the main idea he's trying to get across with that is you've got your calling, I've got my calling. What he really, I think, is saying is your calling is fake.
Right.
Your calling isn't really.
Because I've got proof.
Because my calling is more legitimate than yours.
He's got physical evidence.
I'm doing really good things where all you're doing is bashing people.
Yeah.
Which is what he said twice now.
Right.
And we haven't even listened to the whole thing.
Right.
So when he says that's your calling, what he's really saying is that's not your calling at all.
But I'm just saying it because...
I'm just saying it because it makes me look like I'm being fair and open and even-handed when I'm not. I'm actually creating a straw man.
Gonna say bash again.
Yes.
Wrote one about the delicate dance for believers that want to vote for Donald Trump but don't want to be primarily identified as Trump voters. They want to be identified as followers of Jesus more, negotiating that and, what's happening in Israel. So I'm writing articles, normally 4 or 5 articles every single week. That's in addition to all the books. That's in addition to all the radio. Okay? Now, if you compute it, let's say an article is roughly 1,000 words. All right? So that would be, if you break that down, if you say, let's say there's 600 words on a printed page. We printed it out. That would be 5. Let's start getting. What does 5,000 pages look like? This is in addition to the books. These are the articles that I have written the last 11, 12 years.
For real, this is so crazy.
How long did it take for them to put this whole thing together? He could have researched Benny Hinn in the time that it took to put this silly little show together, but he didn't. He was too busy claiming that we all bash charismatics and we have no real content.
That dude should take this video down.
Well, we're going to keep it up in case he does.
3,000 articles averaging 4 or 5.
Oh, more! Yeah, look at Buried Under the Mountain.
Basically, if you printed them up, that's what we have here.
How great I am.
Wait a second.
How great I are.
Wait a second. The dude, I think that those are just reams of paper.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are just...
He's given us an example of what the articles would be, how many, and what it would look like.
Dude! So he actually had the foresight. Well,
right.
Listen there, Joe. When I make this video, we're going to need 15 stacks of plain paper.
How else can we do this?
For you to pile on here, because I'm going to show the people, look at what I have done. All of this and all of this. The dude... is going to be like Nebuchadnezzar, man. Like humbled to the dust. Nebuchadnezzar said, "Look at this kingdom that I have built." And then God made him eat grass like an ox. I hope that doesn't happen to this guy.
He is good friends with Robert Morris.
You're writing.
Yep.
That's
Dealing
right.
with the culture wars, dealing with the war in Israel, dealing with world situations to help Christians negotiate their way through. I'm just wondering, maybe not 3,000, maybe 300, maybe 30. Oh, that's not your calling. You're not burdened to do that. And plus, you don't have time because it takes a lot of time to bash the charismatics with all the weirdness and stuff.
Number 3.
Got it. All clear. There's another thing that I'm called to do, and that's teach in school settings. So I taught at or led ministry schools basically from 1982 to around 2019 with rare interruption. And that's time and energy. But now that our school, Fire School of Ministry, is entirely online, I have no responsibilities with that. During the school year, I teach at 3 different schools virtually every month. Christ for the Nations in Dallas.
And who is that?
School.
Christ for All Nations is the one that was founded by Gordon Lindsay, the promoter of William Branham, one of the worst heretics of the 20th century, false teacher, heretic. Gordon Lindsay was his promoter. And he started Christ for All Nations.
Was that Reinhard Bonnke
Nope,
too?
that's Christ for, I know I was getting mixed up, CFNA. No, CF. Here, let's see.
Nations All.
That's right.
There's one word different between the two.
3 different schools, virtually every month. Christ for the Nations in
Christ
Dallas.
for the Nations. That's
spiritual leadership.
That's Gordon Lindsay's school, which is a direct link between Alexander Dowie, William Branham, and today's false teachers like Todd White. They're all part of that line of lineage.
School in Fort Worth,
Now
Nations College in Orlando.
Nations College is Daniel Kalenda's thing, and Daniel Kalenda is funded by Kenneth Copeland.
Right.
Nations is short for Christ for All Nations. So I just checked, and Nations College is directly part of Christ for All Nations. And Christ for All Nations is directly funded by Kenneth Copeland. And here are the teachers at the school. There's Daniel Kalenda, president and CEO, and then you got Dr. Michael Brown, adjunct faculty. Daniel Kalenda is getting $315,863 per year to be the president of Christ for All Nations. And that money comes, to some extent, we don't know the exact percentage, but it comes from Kenneth Copeland.
Kenneth Copeland Ministries has faithfully supported Christ for All Nations.
Let me just break it down for you. Do you know who Reinhard Bonnke is? Do you know how many souls that they have in the kingdom right now? Over 76 million souls. Do you know who has paid for their crusades? Kenneth Copeland.
To all those of you that support Kenneth Copeland Ministries, this really is good ground, and they really are practicing what they preach. They are generous, they are giving, and they are helping to promote the gospel around the world. We're indebted to them, and I want to say thank you to them, and thank you to you for supporting them. God bless you. We love you.
So we know that Kenneth Copeland has been very, very generous in supporting Christ for All Nations. And this college is part of Christ for All Nations. And Dr. Michael Brown is a teacher at this school. So the next time you hear Dr. Michael Brown claim that he has no time to look into Kenneth Copeland to find out if he's really a bad teacher or not, I think it would be acceptable to consider that there might be another explanation, possibly a hidden motive for Dr. Michael Brown to remain silent about the false teacher, Kenneth Copeland.
I believe this is the reason why the exhortation is given that not everyone should be teachers, my brothers, because those who teach will be judged more strictly. The fact, I'm just saying, the fact that he's written so many books and done so many articles and teaches so much and has a show that takes up so much time and yet refuses to acknowledge that there is like actual real soul-destroying heresy in the movement which he himself promotes.
In your house.
Yeah.
Within his own
There's
house.
cancer growing in your house, but you're too busy running around outside of it.
But this is where he will say, well, I have written books.
I'll say
have written
this.
a few
That
articles.
dude should stop writing books and focus more on what's actually important then.
The Bible?
Yes. Yes.
So I commute to do that basically almost every month during the school year. Not everyone is every month. 3 days at one, 2 days at another, 1 day at another. So that's every month added in. And then once a year, do 5 days intensive course for Global Awakening Theological Seminary.
That's Randy Clark. So is he in on the New Apostolic Reformation, the Toronto Blessing
That
movement?
he doesn't believe?
100%.
He said no, that there's no such thing.
Yeah.
So in other words, he's saying here, I spend so much of my time
in this particular movement that I can't criticize the movement that I'm spending so much of my time within.
Teaching at the worst false schools of theology in the world today. I spend so much of my time doing that. How can you criticize me? Look at what I'm doing.
I would like to know if anybody out there has a connection to this Nations College, which is connected to Daniel Kalenda, because he named his new church Nations Church, Christ for All Nations. It's the same conglomerate, and it's funded by Kenneth Copeland. He's made that really clear. So if he's teaching there and he's getting paid, I wonder, seems like he's getting paid directly or indirectly by Kenneth Copeland, which would explain why he can't seem to figure out if Kenneth Copeland's a false teacher or
He doesn't
not.
have time.
Even though Justin played clips for him right there, they both went, yeah, those are really bad, but I got to look into it for myself. But I don't have time to, so I'm free. I don't have to make a statement.
Now YWAM has asked me to come once a year to their base in Kona, Hawaii.
Don't send your kids to YWAM. Ask us if you want more detail, because we've got experience with that.
And to teach and train and equip there. So that's 5 different schools. Plus, since the...
So he's doing the same thing he did with the Luther thing.
Look at his face.
He's making the same point. He just keeps pounding the same
Yeah.
point over and over and over and over. But the point doesn't get better. He's still not addressing the issue of, I claim to be a leader in this movement, and I claim to be concerned about abuses within this movement, and yet I can't seem to figure out how to find any time at all to actually call out.
Because he's doing his calling.
He's doing his calling. But he also says that his calling is to be a leader in the charismatic movement who provides spiritual clarity.
That's it. Spiritual clarity.
Sorry, you're not providing
Wait a
spiritual
minute.
clarity.
Oh, now I see.
Spiritual cloudiness.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'm going to speed him up again because I can't take this. I don't do it to make fun. I just want to get over it.
Mid-90s, I've been a visiting or adjunct professor at 7 different seminaries.
Wow.
Which takes a little time.
Yeah.
There's preparation, there's work, and there's classes.
Oh,
So there's,
sure it
there's
does.
that as
Yeah.
well. Oh,
what else?
Hang on.
Okay.
I also have the joy of traveling and preaching. Yeah, so I've been, last year, was on the road 120 days. 120 days I was either traveling or speaking, teaching.
Is he married?
Nancy's his wife.
Okay,
talks about
so who talked about that?
He mentions his wife pretty frequently. Sounds like he's had a good relationship with his wife.
But I mean,
I'd like to hear that from her.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be hard to have a
relationship
an
when you're
actual
traveling
marriage,
so much,
traveling and writing all these.
But that's his calling. So.
But no, the
I don't
first
know.
calling, if you are married, the husband treats his wife like Jesus treats the bride of Christ, the church, and he didn't push her off. She wasn't second best. I'm not saying that his wife is, but when he's going on and on telling us about his schedule year to year and how incredibly difficult it is. And
Sounds
how
like a
he's not-
workaholic.
Right.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point that out.
It's sad to me that this.
I don't want to compete with this. And I don't think
No.
anybody should feel like, oh, if I'm not doing as much as
No.
him, I have nothing to say. That's kind of what he's doing here.
Right.
It's sad to me that it's at least it seems like he's doing the exact thing that Jesus says not to do in the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
And boasting in all these things, and thus, if he is a Christian, losing his reward for teaching and spending so much time doing these things because he's boasting about them now. I don't see what kind of point is he trying to
What
make?
good comes from this?
Is
what
the
good
guy
is Christ being glorified?
Absolutely not.
You know what, though? He's playing to his base.
Yeah.
He's he's retaining his followers. He knows that he's not going to convince anybody like
Which
us.
then he's not concerned about really the darkness that's in the church.
Right. He's holding on to his audience.
Yeah.
This is a very weak argument that only works for people like Ruslan. Sorry, Ruslan. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sorry.
Maybe you didn't like this video because he has said a few things where he didn't agree with Dr. Michael Brown. He thought he should have been more firm on some things.
okay.
So it's possible that he watched this and thought this was inappropriate too.
We don't know.
I can't remember.
Preaching, numerous churches, schools, etc. So that I'm just wondering how much time you've taken on a regular basis, weekly, monthly basis, teaching in Bible colleges, teaching in seminaries, being a professor, oh, that's not your calling. It's not your gifting, your burden. And okay, got it. And you don't have time. All clear. No problem. No problem. What about international travel? Let's put the map up there.
A map!
I have the joy of going outside the U.S. well over 200 times, well over. But overseas, about 180 trips. So leave the map up there. About 180.
I've never been out of the United States.
You should change your name to Paul. You traveled more than Paul.
Wow.
Wow.
Do you know who I am? I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Man, well, I mean, that he's convinced me. I'm a follower of Benny Hinn and Kenneth Copeland.
People know me.
8 trips worldwide. Now, when we put the map up, there's some countries that are so close together, we just kind of group things.
Look at the missionary journeys of Michael
Italy,
Brown.
27 times here or there. India, we put that up. There's 29 times just to India. By the way, my India trips, it's about 40 to 45 hours each way. So 80 to 90 hours round trip. I've done that 29 times, plus the ministry time in India. You know, Australia 4 times, New Zealand once, Singapore 5 times. These are pretty far away. You know, Japan, China, Philippines 3 times, etc. Israel is at 18 times now. England about the same. And Germany.
What does this have to do with the false teachings of Sid Roth?
Right.
It has so calling him Doc Obbs, the obfuscator or the deflector. I don't see how he could get mad at that. I don't see how he could say, they're misrepresenting me. I think it's very fair to represent him as the obfuscator.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Look at all the places he's gone to. Look at what a great servant of God he is.
So I've been to, I think, about 35 countries. I lost track with Canada. Maybe it's 25, 30 trips to Canada. So it takes a lot of time. International travel takes a lot of time. Jet lag, ministry. So just overseas, that's about 180 trips. I spent years of my life serving around the world, ministering, doing missions work around the world. I'm just curious as to how much of that you're doing. I mean, just ask my critic friends how much time you're spending out on the mission field.
My critic friends. This is not how you treat friends.
No.
I mean, I would like to be friends with as many people as possible. And when we were exchanging some emails for a brief time a couple of years ago, I sincerely hoped that I could get somewhere and we could have some kind of a friendship. And it didn't take very long for me to go, I don't think this is going to be a real friendship. He's trying to
You're just a pawn.
I'm a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
in
somebody,
this whole big game of chess he's playing.
He wants me to be quiet about him at least, if not quiet about other things. But he wanted me to be quiet, and I said, I don't think I want to be quiet. Because I don't see him actually doing any of the things he claims to want to do in regard to the false teachings within his own movement. I don't remember where he goes at the end here.
How much time you're going to equipping missionaries? How much time you're working with those who are fighting human trafficking and things like that? Because a lot of our missionaries are doing that overseas as well. How much you're working with church planters going to unreached parts of the world, because we're working with folks doing that. How much you're working with persecuted church in the midst of suffering, because we're going that sometimes right on the front lines physically with them. Just wondering, because that's taken on years of my life. One of the great privileges I have. Just wondering how much of your time you've taken. Oh, that's not your calling. You're not burdened to really do that. World missions, that's kind of secondary, because others are doing that. And plus, you don't have time. Yeah, I mean, how could you do all that and just bash charismatics all the time?
Bash charismatics all the time. That's your calling, to bash charismatics all the time.
This is the most arrogant man I've ever seen.
It seems like it. Well, outside of Daniel Kalinda.
Yeah.
Caviar.
Daniel Kalinda is the cartoon version.
Yes.
That's right.
He's the cartoon version of Dr. Michael Brown.
Yeah.
I think if you're watching our video and you've stayed with us, thank you so much. I want you to learn how to think for yourself so that this kind of stuff doesn't fool you anymore. I want you to take responsibility for your own spiritual life so that guys like this, who do say some good things about some things here and there, overall are to be avoided.
Yes.
This is not a man who has your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And
I don't think so anyway, based on what I'm seeing. I shouldn't say I know his heart.
He's the champion of the charismatic movement. This guy right here is the champion of it. And you can see so plainly the fruit of this boasting, arrogant behavior, making a video like this. All the things he's done for the Lord. All the things. And you know what you never see?
We just bash charismatics. That's all we do.
I mean, I still haven't heard not one time in this video, anything about Jesus, the grace of Jesus, the gospel of Jesus, nothing. It is all
It's not a sermon.
completely
That's why.
focused.
You only do that when you do a sermon. You should know that.
Right.
It's just a sermon. And even some sermons, you don't have to do that either.
It's all completely focused on this man.
Okay, so that's a really good point, David. And I want to end by saying, when
Are we
we
going
talk,
to finish it or no?
I don't want to.
Okay, you don't have to.
I just ate.
No, if you've been confused by people like this because you feel like you haven't done enough, let me just share with you the most simple version of the gospel, and that is, you haven't done enough, and you never will do enough because you're sinful by nature. Mm-hmm. You can't make up for your sin. That's why Jesus came and died on the cross in your place. He took the penalty that you deserve for hell, and he said, I'm going to take that punishment as if I was guilty, when he's the only person who never was guilty. Mm-hmm. So the gospel is all about you receiving that forgiveness, and it's being free from this burden of feeling like you got to do more. Yes. This is a guy who, to me, seems like a workaholic with issues. I mean, seriously, and I know this because I've got issues sometimes myself that I'm still working on.
All of us are sinners.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of wanting to do more and more and more and never feeling like you're finished, I've struggled with that my whole life, and I'm getting better at that. And when I look at this, I'm like, I am not encouraged to want to try to follow this guy whatsoever.
It's self-righteousness,
it is, man. I mean, he would never come out and say, I'm trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to serve God. That's probably what he would say. But it does come across
Let's just let this speak for itself.
You want to finish it off?
No. Yeah. Okay, he does.
No, I don't.
Okay. 2 against 1.
All right, fine.
So
It's only 1 minute left.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Much is probably
Get
5.
it. All clear. No problem whatsoever. Was there anything? You know what? I actually have something called family. Yeah, so there's Nancy, my bride of 48 plus years, then our wonderful daughters and sons-in-law and 4 grandkids, so there's time with family. And then this relationship with God, right?
That's
time alone with the
last
Lord,
thing that
doing
he
the word,
said.
prayer. And then once a month, I stop everything for a weekend and just do a prayer retreat just to get alone with the Lord and spend time with him, quality time with the Lord, to really focus and be everything he wants me to be so I can more effectively serve you and glorify Jesus.
Wow.
I can be everything he wants me to be.
And then all the people coming with problems, issues, pastors, leaders that look to us for counsel and doing that. And then
what if somebody comes to you and says, I'm really concerned about Sid Roth and all the fake, fraudulent people that he hosts on his show? Do you counsel those people, or do you just send those away and tell them, don't worry about that? I'm good friends with him. I know it's not that bad because I haven't watched any of the shows, but I know it's not that bad because he's my friend and I haven't watched any shows.
Yep.
That's what he has to say.
Yep.
You don't counsel people about really important things. At least I can't imagine how he has the time. I mean, what he described here is inhuman.
That's true.
No one could do all these things that he claims to do on a regular basis.
Right.
No one could do these things. On top of that, right after he made this video, he came out with a video and said, I was wrong about Benny Hinn. Really? Did you do weeks of research? No. You got put in your place by Mike Winger. Because he's a charismatic, and it made you look bad not to respond to him and to me. So you didn't do any research about Benny Hinn. You watched a video and you changed your mind about it. The thing you say here, you can never do.
Yep.
Okay.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
the biggest project of all, it's taking the most of my time. I can't even tell you about. That's behind the scenes going on. And hopefully, a few more months we can let you know about that.
A secret project.
So I'm kind of busy. I'm sorry I can't read all your comments on social media. I'm sorry I can't devote all my time to calling out the people you think I should call out. But God's got me pretty busy, and I'm pretty blessed. And I'll tell you what, you run your race, I'll run mine.
That's it. Oh, it's like the worst video I ever saw from a so-called Christian person. Seriously. Unbelievable.
So, may I say something?
Absolutely, honey.
Thank you. So, in the beginning of our journey, Steve was having questions because he was listening to the pastor and he was there, for the 2 services for the Sunday because he was on the worship team. And things started going ding, ding, ding in his head. And he's like, I better pick up my Bible and start reading because that doesn't really sound right. There's something there. That's where it begins. Something doesn't sound right. You go to the scripture and you're like, okay, instead of, well, he must know what he's talking about. He's got the microphone. He must know what he's talking about. Look at all what he's written. Look at all the work he's done. No, what is being said and what is scripture? And I loved what you did about sharing scripture, about what Paul boasted of.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because you got to peel off these layers just to say, okay, where are we with the gospel? Where are we with the truth of the written word? And what does the written word say about what this pastor is saying or what this miracle thing does because I need to be closer to Jesus? I mean, it's like, okay, passage, which passage is that?
When we started reading the Bible more, we stopped being charismatic.
Yes.
That's in a nutshell.
Amen.
Yeah. And it wasn't because of the handful of verses that mentioned something about speaking in tongues, which was a known language. It was because of all the other things about false teachers and false teachings and all the warnings. That's what this article is all about.
We read the whole scripture, not just bits and pieces, and followed along and made that twist and fit into the concept of what a true Christian should be. When you add the whole scripture together and take all those verses and put it in context, then you see Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. He did not promise us a life of wealth and no problems, of health and happiness. It was the complete opposite.
And for those who are still with us right now,
again,
watching this, what Brown does in that video we just watched sounds so much to me like Jesus' parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector.
Yes.
Where the Pharisee goes to the temple and says, "Look at me, Lord. Look at all the things that I have done. I fast twice a week. I give a tenth of all that I have. I'm not like this tax collector over here." Okay, look at all the things that I have done. And the tax collector beats his breasts, and he cannot even look up to heaven, but he cries out, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." It's what Augustus Toplady said in his famous hymn, Rock of Ages. "Nothing in my hands I bring, simply to thy cross I cling. Foul I to the fountain fly, wash me, Savior, or I die." That is the cry of the true Christian, not look at me and look at all the things that I do for the Lord, and this is why I should be listened to and others shouldn't be. That's the opposite of what Jesus says. So I think, that video we just watched is actually anti-gospel. He should say, "What have I done for the Lord?" I've done nothing for the Lord. Like, I can't... Look, when Jesus talks about those whom he is going to reward, and he says that when I was naked, you clothed me, and when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. The response of the sheep was this: when? When did we do this? It's like they don't even remember. Right. They do not keep record of all the good things that they've done for Jesus. They
weren't saying, "Hey, you missed a couple of things. Remember that commentary I wrote? You didn't add that to the list."
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That the Christian is not to keep. I did this for you, Jesus. No, we leave it all in the Lord's hands. We do not boast in our good works. That's so wrong. Yeah. That video alone, for anyone who has any modicum of discernment whatsoever, should turn you off of listening to Michael Brown on anything, because that's the kind of man that he really is.
Yeah. There we go.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Amen.
We hope you found this helpful. We really do. And I know we get angry and we get upset and we even maybe poke the hornet's nest a little bit too much, but it's because we do care and we want you to go to a good church and not to be burdened by this kind of stuff anymore. So please look at all the playlists and look at all the materials that I'll provide and links.
He's written.
I'll have links to
all of his articles.
To this man's channel also. If you want to listen to this guy preach, if you like the way he preaches, he's got a YouTube channel and, of course, the Cessationist movie.
Yes.
Which is something that you may not totally agree with yet, or you may think there's some things there that you never heard that are really making you think in a different way. I want you to understand that we're not here to push our viewpoint and to get mad at you when you don't agree with us 100%. That's not how this works. That would be a really bad channel.
Yes.
But we do want to encourage you to think about things that you maybe haven't thought about or maybe never even heard about before. And I think that the movie you guys made, it's an imperfect movie. You would admit that. It's not the end all of everything, but it's just a starting point to get you thinking about some things.
And talking.
Yeah. So anyway, that's enough. Thanks so much, David, for being our guest.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate your support, and thank you, supporters, very much for being there for us and your prayers. We appreciate that.
See you again soon.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
He takes the baby, 2-month-old,
throws the baby against the wall.
Hey.